Alright guys, we are here in DCS once again, and we're going to try to do something that's kind of difficult to do. First of all, let me see if I can override. No, I think it just made a second one of the same name. Anyway, so as you can see, we're carrying 4 harm missiles and 4 AIM 120Cs. Got our harm pod, so we're going to rearm. We're at Sochi on Caucasus. That's where Colosseum takes place, is on Caucasus. So what we need to do here is turn on our hard points. I know it's dark. This server, when it restarts at sunrise, so, and it doesn't reactivate or start counting time again until somebody plays on it. So if I play on it until it's daytime, then it'll be daytime for the next person that comes to it. Unless, of course, it resets again before anybody else comes to it. So, okay. So we got our countermeasures enabled. Our RWR is active. We flipped our master arm, so we're armed. We're going to set up our air to ground. So we need to turn on our harm missiles. We're going to come over here. The harm targeting pod is what's called the HAD. We're going to click on that, and the targets will appear inside that kind of odd-shaped circle thing. But the higher you are, the bigger that circle becomes, so you have more range. So then we're going to switch to air. We've got our 4 120s. I prefer TWS. I know I'm in the minority on that. That is what I like. So we got our radar set up for air-to-air. Just take a glance. We got our harm missiles, our AIM 120s, and we are going to be working on some enemy established areas on the coast. So along the water here. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to make one pass and take out as much of their air defenses as we possibly can with our harm missiles. And then once we do that, we'll try to do a bombing run in a second flight. So, and I'm recording this live, so if I screw up and get shot down by either a enemy AA or an enemy aircraft, then this video will be a lot different than what I had planned. So let's try not to die. So we turn off our nose wheel steering. We're only about halfway down the runway, but in the F-16 that's plenty of room to get off the ground. We're already over 140, 150, 160, 170, and we're going to rotate. And we are airborne. Gear up. Gear coming up. And we're going to use our right screen here to take a look down the coast. You see that cluster of enemy anti-air that is on the coast down there. That is where our targets are. So that's what we're looking for. So we're going to climb at an alarming rate. I know it's not, I recently had someone teach me the proper way to climb to altitude in the F-16. And it is certainly more speed efficient and better for certain flight types and everything. But I prefer my grasshopper approach, which is just climb really hard, really fast. Keep an eye on your fuel, get up to a high altitude, and then level off and try to get up some speed. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to our air to ground. So we've got air to ground pulled up. Now you see some targets on the ground already. Alright, so we're approaching 25,000, soon be at 30,000 feet. See the sun coming up over there. Almost to 30,000. Alright, so 30,000, we're going to come down to just under 10 degrees. Now we're doing something that the F-16 is not really, is capable. It's certainly capable, but it's not designed for, which is very high altitude flight. So we want to be at about 40,000, and the reason we want to be up that high is because the higher we go, the bigger the targeting area is for the HAD that we're using on the left screen there. So I'm going to go ahead and level off because we're approaching 40,000. So we're going to level off. You can see we're at just about 300 knots right now. We're going to let it gain a little speed before we back off the throttle. We're going to come off burner. So now we are just off burner. We just got to keep an eye. Our fuel still looks good. Just got to keep an eye on our speed and make sure, because at this altitude, the F-16 is not very efficient. This thing is not really designed for 40,000 feet maintained altitude. It can easily get up here. It just doesn't handle. You'll see. Like if you watch the speed gauge, the speed will slowly continue to drop until you almost fall out of the sky in this aircraft. Alright, so we've got one SAM site in front of us right here. We are good to fire, so we're going to go ahead and fire our first harm. So we're going to see that harm. It's going to climb probably up to about 50,000 feet or a little more, and then it's going to dive down and rain death down on our enemies. SA-19 just popped up. It is also in range. So we're going to fire our second harm missile. We're going to fire another one. Okay, we got good hits on one target already. We've got an SA-3 that is locking onto us. We're going to fire our fourth harm missile and we are going to dip. So we're going to throttle up. You see how kind of out of control this jet gets at this high altitude. So we're going to try to dive. We're going to flare. That SA-3 got a shot on us, so we got to try to get away from that missile. We're going to gain a lot of speed coming down. Another target hit. So we're getting a lot of good hits with our harm missiles. So let's see. We got the SA-19. We got the SA-3. couple, looks like ground vehicles as well. So we did quite a bit of damage there. Okay. So we're going to come off of burner. So if you look on the right screen, you will see a white dot. See that lone white dot? That is home base. That is where we're headed. We're headed home. So we're going to make our way back there. We're not on burner right now, but because of our steep descent, we've picked up a lot of speed. So what we're going to do is we're going to radio home. Let them know we're inbound, coming to land. So we're not in a huge rush. But the faster we get home and get landed and get rearmed, the faster we can get back in the action. So that's kind of what we're trying to do. So that's about as successful of a harm launch as you can have. You know, that's 4 harms, multiple kills. Actually, if we pull up the scoreboard, 12 ground kills. That includes some foot soldiers and stuff like that, but 12 ground kills with 4 harms, that's about as much as you can hope for in most situations. I know in one of my videos I had a harm that had like 15 confirmed kills, but that's not typical. It's not something you're going to see regularly. So there is our airfield. That's where we're going to be landing. So we need to scrub off a lot of speed. So we're going to come all the way back on the throttle. We're also going to engage our air brakes to take off even more speed. So the air brake you have to be careful with, because if you get too low on your speed, so we're going to turn off the air brake and we're going to drop our landing gear. Still completely off throttle. We're at idle right now. So we're going to throttle back up a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit, but in the 16 you have such an abundance of power, it doesn't take much throttle to really get it going. So we're gonna get ourselves lined up for our landing. Alright, so we're making our approach here. Trying to actually gain a little altitude so we can see the runway a little better. Coming in nice and smooth. We're going to throttle all the way back. And we're going to try to set it down nice and easy. And there we go. Apply the brakes. Try to keep it under control. The 16's a little finicky with its taxiing. The landing gear is kind of narrow, and it's a little easy to tip this jet over, actually. So we're going to come to a complete stop. Almost complete stop. We're going to taxi off the runway. Always get off the runway when you're rearming, even if there's nobody else on the server, or even if you're in single player and there's nobody else around. It's just good habit to get into, to always get off the runway. That way you don't find yourself repeating bad habits on a multiplayer server and getting yourself or someone else killed. Alright. So, now we are going to try the CBU 105s. We're also going to carry a couple of harms with us this time as well. Now, after we get done refueling takes longer than rearming. So after we get done refueling, then they'll rearm. And then once we're rearmed, we'll take off and head back to our designated target area. And we got to keep our eyes peeled because we did not engage any aircraft that time. Which means there might be somebody who followed us home or halfway between here and there, so we got to keep our eyes peeled for air-to-air as well. So the refueling is the part that takes the longest. Everything else is pretty quick. Okay, so refueling is complete, so now they should rearm. There is our CBU 105s. Okay, rearming complete. So now what we have to do is we go into air to ground. No, we go to air to ground, sorry. And then we power on our CBUs. We turn our targeting pod to Viz so that it's active. Go over to our harms, power those on, and then so when you're in this screen, the HAD is for the harms, and then you go back to that screen and go to TGP, which is your targeting pod, and then that's how you would flip between those two. So we're going to leave it on the HAD for now. Air to air, shouldn't be anything different. 40120s, radar is already set up. So we are good to go. So we are going to go ahead and taxi our way back onto the runway. So the F-16 is a very capable jet. The jet can pretty much do anything you can imagine that you would want to do, whether it's air-to-air or air-to-ground. The only thing holding it back would be the pilot, the knowledge of the pilot and the abilities to execute. So I'm obviously still pretty new to air-to-grounds, something I'm still learning. There's a lot to learn, like a lot to learn. I've only learned a couple of weapon systems and some pretty basic stuff so far. But even just the little bit that I've learned so far is really enjoyable. So I can't wait to learn more. Can't wait to find even more things to be able to do in this thing. Alright, so we are up to speed. Go ahead and rotate. Landing gear up. And head back down the coast. Now those radar anti-air rings are still there on the data link map, as you can see on the right screen there. But after a while they will disappear because they were destroyed, but it takes a while. Now they also will respawn after a while as well. So, I mean, it takes a long time for them to respawn, but on this particular server they will respawn eventually. But the rings are still there, so we have to be really kind of aware of what's actually active and what is not. I don't know if anything anti-air is still active in that area, but you can see there's a couple of things active over to our right a little bit. Paying so much attention to my screens that I'm not flying the jet, so I need to do a better job of flying the jet. Looks like we have one target that we can launch on here, and then we can make our way down the coast. Alright, so we've got to launch on that. You see that harm missile climbing up high. So we're going to change our trajectory a little bit here. Head back down the coast. We're really struggling with speed right now because we kind of climbed at a little too high of a rate, so now we're struggling We gotta pick up some speed. This jet is just really unstable at this kind of altitude. Doesn't like being up here. It's absolutely perfect at about 25,000. That's kind of its peak operating altitude. Okay, so those are good hits. We put some pretty good damage on a couple of vehicles and destroyed a dog ear radar system. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to save our other harm, and we're going to switch to our targeting pod and see if we can't do a bombing run here. Alright, there is our target. Alright, so first target selected. We're still out of range right now. Now these CB-105s, they don't just kill you, they kill everybody you ever cared about. They are, by some people call them weapons of mass destruction. They are certainly very lethal bombs. As you see, we're almost in range of firing here. Alright, we're going to drop our... Oh, we're not quite in range. Going to drop our first bomb. Uh-oh, it's not dropping. Why is it not dropping? Is it too far off to the side? It is. It's too far off to the side. And... there it goes. Alright, so that's one target. And that's two. So, nope, only one. So we only got one bomb away. See if that bomb hits. Okay, so while we're distracted and watching our bombing run, we have been snuck up on by an enemy aircraft. He is off to our right, so we're going to go ahead and engage him. That bomb did hit, but I'm a little disappointed we didn't get to see it on the on the screen there, but so our enemy has fired on us. We've got a missile on its way to him as well. Put a second missile on him. We're gonna shoot one more missile at this guy and we're gonna head home. Whoa, we got a couple of missiles really close. So we are in fuel conservation mode. So that bomb did hit, but we never did hit that MiG that was behind us. We're still getting a missile warning. Are we getting a missile warning from the MiG that's behind us? Is that, or not missile warning, but a radar warning? We're like out of fuel. We can't afford to. We really can't afford to go back and fight him if we can get back to base without getting killed. Very low on fuel. Alright. So trying to conserve as much fuel as we can. So unfortunately this is going to be a much longer, slower trip back home because we're conserving fuel. Depending on how low we are on fuel, it may not be as pretty of a landing either. We'll have to see, because we are pushing it pretty good. We're down to 1,000 pounds right now, and we still got a pretty decent amount of distance to cover. Okay, so just keeping an eye. Looks like it's actually an F-14 that's behind us right now. The last thing we want to do is make it almost home and get shot down. We've only got one 120 left, so it would have to be a desperation shot and then eject, basically, because we've got no fuel left. See, I enjoy flying in DCS. A lot of people that play DCS only want to blow stuff up. They don't want to actually spend any time just enjoying flying, but I really enjoy just the act of flying. That's why I've put so much time into Flight Simulator over the years and everything. So this doesn't bother me, but for some people, they would be so bored they would have to just reslot and rearm and go right back into the battle. Which, I mean, I get it. If that's all you enjoy about it is the action, then stay in the action. So we're down to just under 800 pounds of fuel now. So it's going to be really close. We're going to be cutting it pretty close here. Should be able to make it, I think. I've tested. Actually, you know one thing that would really help? If we jettison all this extra payload and our tank that is empty. So we're going to jettison all that. We're going to trim our aircraft back out. Yeah, that should help. So now we dropped all of our bombs and our extra tank, so we should be able to save some fuel that way. Oh boy, that F-14 is right on us. He's about to kill us. Alright guys, well I wanted to show a second landing and show you how to do it the way you're supposed to do it, but we're gonna have to take a desperation shot on this F-14 because he's gonna kill us. No doubt about that. And we got him. I don't think he expected us to turn and fire on him. Caught him by surprise a little bit. And we are out of fuel. So unfortunately this one is going to end with us getting wet. Well, that's a shame. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoy the fact that I don't just show myself succeed, but I also show myself make huge mistakes. As you see my F-16 coming back down. She's gonna splash down any second now, surely. Stayed in the air longer than I expected, that's for sure. Is that not my F-16 we're looking at? That must be another jet we're looking at. I thought that was the jet I just ejected from, but there's no way it stayed in the air this long. Oh, that was. Wow, it stayed in the air a long time. Alright, well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.